Hello, hello. We're going to wait for Rachel. I'm going to pin our topic, meal prepping and picky. Hey, Rachel's here. Picky eaters with Rachael. That's not how you spell her name. Rachael Rose. All right, posting and pinning that. Okay, everyone. Rachael is requested to join. Put them in the chat and we will try to answer them. But welcome, everyone. All right, we're just waiting for Rachael. She should be coming. Oh, I didn't accept her. Sorry. Okay. Let's put you down here. Hello, hello, everyone. Okay, I accepted. Weird. And someone, okay. I don't know why it's not working. I'm accepting you, Rachael. All right, we're gonna, Rachael, maybe go off the live and try again. If you hear me, because it's not letting me accept you for some reason. But stay tuned, everyone. She's coming. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, I invited you, Rachael. Let's try that. Is it gonna work? Yay!
Hey, there we go.
Okay. Hi.
All right.
I am good.
Good morning.
How are you? So exciting.
Good.
Your first live.
Yeah, I know. I can't believe I actually figured out how to do it. That wasn't that bad.
Oh, I see Jonathan is here.
Yeah.
So do you want to introduce yourself to everyone, and then I'll do a little intro and then we'll get started?
Sure. So my name is Rachael Rose, and I'm the owner of Creative Speech Therapy NYC, which is a private practice on the Upper East Side. We are actually celebrating our one-year anniversary of our brick and mortar. Yay! So that's pretty exciting. It's been a year of growth and exciting stuff. And so we do speech therapy, we do language therapy, we do social skills, that kind of thing. My specialty, though, is in working with picky eaters and problem feeders, which is why, you know, you and I talked, because I know that what you do really supports families in making meal times less stressful. And sort of the first tip I always give to clients is try to sit down as a family and eat as a family and have a family meal where you guys can all, you know, talk and share food, and we can talk more about that. But I know that what you do is also trying to make meal times less stressful. So that's why I was excited to talk today.
So for those that don't know or who are watching from your account, my name is Elia Wahlberger and my company is Feed Your Sister. And what I do, I'm a meal prep chef and coach. So I actually I either cook for people weekly in their house, which a lot of people come to me with picky eaters. So we're definitely going to talk about that. And then my other side of the business is coaching single professionals, parents, moms, dads, whoever, to create a sustainable meal prep routine for their busy lifestyles that works for them and their family. And all my services are encouraging families to create moments together around the dinner table, because that is just like the most special time, and nobody should be up and down, stressed out, trying to please everyone during dinner time. It's a really difficult time for most families. So just learning how to make things easier for everyone is like my jam, and I love meal prepping. So we're going to talk today about how meal prepping and picky eating and stress all kind of tie together. And if anyone has any questions, you can write them in the comments, and then we'll try to answer them a little bit later.
Yeah, I mean, one of the main things I was thinking about is how it's stressful enough to get your family to the table and, have dinner at the same time and all of that. But let alone then having to think about what you're going to make for the family. And then if you have a picky eater, then you're stressing about, that cooking for that child too and having something special. So at the very least, not having that task on your plate every night really helps the parents to come to the table and be less stressful. And, kids pick up on stress and those cues. And so if the parent is stressed out trying to get food on the table and brings that energy to the table, then the child starts to feel that way too. And one of the things about picky eating is if a child feels that anxiety, they can go into fight or flight. And when you go into fight or flight, the brain sends a signal to your stomach that like, we shouldn't be eating right now. We got to get away from this table, let alone, sit and eat. And so then you've really lost the child at that point. So that's why I think it's so important what you do.
So last night, so some of you might know, I started a group coaching program last week, and one of the moms has 2 daughters. I posted them on my stories yesterday, but she was like, it was amazing. She's like, I let them serve themselves. I put the sauce on the side. We made turkey pesto meatballs, which is my recipe. They put the sauce on the side, and the girls just went for it. And I told the mom, I said that, I'm also a preschool teacher, was this preschool teacher. So, I do know a lot about the kids that you work with too. And I told her, I said, it's all about control. Kids want the control, but parents have to set them up for the success of feeling in control. So like, you pick what's on the table, right? And they can choose what they want. So they feel like they're in control. And if you don't say anything, it just goes a lot smoother, and they're more likely to maybe try things. I also saw yesterday on Instagram, another family tagged me, and she was talking about like talking out loud to kids about, not directly to them, but during dinner, if there's something on the table or on their plate that they might not want or say they don't like, to be like, I wonder if somebody can taste the maple syrup in the miso maple salmon, and what ended up happening was the girl like stuck her fork in and tasted it without, and she basically was like, don't kind of give attention to the kids when they do something that you want them to do, because that can like, kind of make them be like, wow, I'm not doing that anymore, So talk to me about how we get kids who are picky to try new things. Because I have so many clients that they're like, we want to cook things for the kids that they're going to eat. And I'm like, I can't promise you they're going to eat it. I can cook it, and that's fine. But it's just like, it's so hard. You can't convince the child to eat something. And I know growing up, that's what my parents did, and it was terrible. But, like I just remember sitting at the dinner table till like 10 o'clock. Like, if you don't finish your food, you can't have dessert. And I'd sit there and not eat anything,
Well, that's the thing. Is that if you first is not making one food more important than another. So we really are stepping away from, you can't have dessert unless you eat your food, because picky eaters will starve. They won't eat, so making all food kind of the same, like dessert has some, advantages, regular food has advantages. But I think to your point before, it is really about control. And it's also about exposure. And so one of the things that I often tell parents is serve things family style. So put things on platters. So if it's this miso salmon and they're really against that, can they at least like pass it from one family member to the next? Because then they're smelling it, they're interacting with it. Maybe they can take a piece off and put it on someone else's plate. So they're at least having some exposure to it without actually being told you have to put something in your mouth, because that's really scary. I mean, it's scary for adults. If somebody, if I'm traveling and there's a very strange food, I don't know what it is, and someone's like, just take a bite, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to, right? I might poke it with a fork or like smell it or like mash it into something I know and like take a little bite. So that's what kids do too. So, just thinking about like honoring that. But most importantly is have them exposed to all the foods, but never pressure them to put it in their mouth. There's lots of ways that kids can interact with
Right.
food
Yeah,
that
let's
aren't
talk about
actually
ways
eating it.
to expose them, because I want people to walk away from this live like with some tactical things that they can do like tonight at dinner time. So let's talk maybe one thing that they can do with exposure that's not actually physically like eating it. And I know that involving the kids in the cooking process is also really important. So that's definitely one way to do it. Touching it, smelling it, things, like that. But is there like what's like your favorite way to expose a child? I like the family style passing around too. That's really great.
Yeah, honestly, that's probably my like number one is to put things on platters so that it's not like this has to be on your plate or this is a mom's food and this is a kid's food. Really, you're trying to gray out those like black and white rules that that picky eaters have. So the first thing I would say is have something called an all done bowl on the table. So the child, if there's something on their plate that they are choosing not to actually eat, they can move it away from them. And parents can use it too. If you're eating like chicken on the bone and you have the bone left, you can put that in the all done bowl. It doesn't have to be things that you don't want to eat. It could just be things that you're all done with for now. So number one, platter style, family style eating, and then two, all done bowl. And then the third thing would be really kind of doing this little dance with your kid of like asking them, can they pass it to you? Can they put a piece on their plate? All these different things, but then watching their reaction. And if they start to get a little bit kind of nervous or seem like they're kind of backing away from the table, then just, kind of back up from what you're asking. So that's called grading the ask. So you're reducing the demand on them for what you're actually asking them to do. But also remember that kids get a lot of exposure from seeing you eat, from smelling it. Our smell, when we smell something, we're essentially tasting it. So if you can get a child to smell it, then you're essentially almost having them taste it. So at that point, it's the texture in the mouth, which is the hard part for picky eater.
So one with the all done bowl, like I know from working with smaller kids, like birth through 2, second grade, like they'll be like, oh, I don't want that on my plate. And they'll like put it on the table, or like babies will like throw it off their thing. And you can teach them, if you don't want it, that's okay. Put it over here, right? We don't want it on the floor. Like, the baby's throwing food everywhere. And if you teach them that skill from baby, then they can do it. And you don't have to freak out. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
I worked with a child last year, my last child that I worked with in school, and he definitely had some picky eating things. And like, if it was like a soggy chicken nugget or a wet blueberry in his lunchbox, like he also had sandwiches with nothing inside, like just 2 bland whole wheat bagel, like pieces of bread stuck together. It was gross, but like that's what he did, and he just wouldn't eat like what he didn't want. And then the smelling thing is also really important, because cooking in itself is such a sensory experience. There's so many senses going on, and like I talk about that too, even just like while you're cooking, not to have your hearing. Like I always say, don't, like, if you want to listen to a podcast or music while you're cooking, like as an adult, people like to zone out. But if you're zoning out too much with earphones in your ear, you can't hear what's going on in the kitchen, and that could be dangerous. Plus, you can like lose your time. You can lose, there's so many things, and you really need to hear like if the pot is bubbling over, or and so the same thing with kids, like they need to have like all their senses intact, like while sitting down.
Such a good point, because I have a lot of clients who resort to like an iPad or the TV on to get kids to zone out and eat, which works for a little while, but then you have to, keep adding and adding. And the other thing about that is then you're not mindfully eating. So that's like that, like chips in front of the TV effect. Like you don't realize the next thing you know, you've eaten like the whole bag. So same with kids using an iPad. And it's a very helpful crutch for parents, and I get that, but you're teaching your child mindless eating, and they're like going back to control. They're not really making those like controlled decisions of like, ooh, I like that, and oh, I don't like that.
And I also
So I think
see
that's
like
such a good point too.
parents, like when they are in front of the iPad and stuff, they are more likely to be fed as opposed to the kid eating themselves, which is also a problem, right? Like again, the control thing, like shoving food in a kid's mouth, as much as you want them to eat, like they have to be independent eaters.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I encourage family meals, even for like your 6-month-old who's just starting to eat. Yeah, they're only eating purees and you're eating, with a fork and a knife,
Yeah.
but they're at least seeing how you're doing it. They're observing, so they're getting exposed not only to the foods, but also to the utensils, the way that you eat, all of that stuff. And the other thing I wanted to mention, which was such a great point, is what a sensory experience it is for cooking and eating. And so also recognizing what kind of sensory preferences your kids eat, or your kids like. So for example, I had a client who kind of was a sensory seeker. They were like seeking out sensory input. Yeah, like they would like run into a wall or crash into a pillow. So to get that kid to eat vegetables, I used pickles. So we did like pickled carrots, pickled green beans, pickled cucumbers. And he learned to like pick vegetables by having really highly flavored sensory experiences. Similarly, it's like dipping something in like a soy sauce
Dips
dip
are
or something that's like
for
gives
kids.
you
They love like the dip, like, because then again, it's all about the control. Like, oh, this is fun. I always tell parents, like with lunches too, like that's like a big complaint. Like, I never know what to pack my kid for lunch. They don't like things when it's warm. They don't like it when it's this, like, whatever. It's not hot enough. The thermos doesn't work. And I always say, like, lunch doesn't have to be a whole like production. Just pick a few foods.
Yeah.
Like it could be, like I said yesterday, I love like the little Trader Joe's brie bites. I don't know if you know those. So like, I don't know if kids like brie generally, but maybe they do. But like dipping a pretzel, once it's room temperature, becomes like a melty kind of brie. And I like love it.
Yeah, that's great.
And, you put a little honey on it or a little jelly and like, you can get to them to eat. That could be like their protein and carb. And then, whatever fruit they like or vegetable they do like, and maybe a power bar or something, like that's okay. That's enough. They don't need to eat a whole meal, like a whole big production.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's about adequate nutrition and getting as much of the right vitamins and minerals in as possible in whatever way works for your kids. So yeah, like some kids, fruit and vegetables are typically hard for picky eaters because it really depends. Like you can get a sweet strawberry or a sour strawberry or a mushy one or a hard one. So for those kids, sometimes I even just use like freeze-dried fruits. Because it's sort of more of the same every time. It's crunchy. It's a different texture. You're still getting some of those vitamins and minerals. But yeah, and also lunch at school is incredibly overwhelming. I used to work at elementary school and I was the lunch monitor. And like, I thought I was going to have to go on like a medication to like deal with it. My nerves were shot. So if you're a regular kid trying to get all that food in that short amount of time with all the talking, and the loud noises, let alone be, a picky eater, and you're already, and then you're smelling all these smells from other kids. Like it's a very overwhelming experience. So I always suggest getting like a hearty snack when you pick the kid up from school because lunch, it just may not be their thing.
Absolutely.
In that environment.
Yeah, I agree with that. Lunch, like as a kid, I always threw away my lunch and just ate like the sweet stuff because I'm like a sugar fiend. But I didn't like sandwiches. I hated like cold, like gross, like defrosted pita and cream cheese. Like that's what I had as a kid, and I threw it away every single day. And then I'd come home and like house like bowls of cereal, pass out, and then not eat dinner, which is another problem families have. And that's why meal prep is so important, because if you have your fridge if your meals are all meal prepped at the beginning of the week, your kid can come home from school, maybe it's after school or, whatever time, even if it's at lunchtime, depending on your kid's age, you can just pull out something quickly and they can have like their dinner at 4 o'clock and then serve a better, heartier snack later. So you're not feeling like they're not going to eat dinner if I give them this now. Yeah.
Good point. When you prep for families, and I know it's different for everybody, but would the kids have the opportunity to prep some or make some of their food for dinner, like at night?
Well, you know, it's funny.
Or is it all done for them?
Most of the time when I'm at people's houses cooking for them, like weekly, kids are at school because it's like during the day. But some families have babies, or their kids home from school or whatever. And if they are, like, I'm always interacting with the kids. One client has a baby and she's always eating lunch like around 11. So I'm still there and I'll be like, oh, does, so-and-so want to try? Like, I'll make her like a little meatball or like whatever's coming out of the oven. I'm like, would you like to try this? And like, usually they'll like give her a piece of it and she'll eat it. Like, she loves like string beans. So like, I always make her string beans and she'll like inhale like the whole thing of string beans. I love watching little kids eat, but yeah, she's not the picky one. It's the other daughter that's picky. And then, so it's like, I also find that parents are like, I always meal prep for my kids and then I eat shit. And I'm like, well, why are you doing that? Especially with like 6 months to a year, like your kid can eat basically everything you're eating. Like, you don't have to specialize your meal prep for your kid. Make what you want. Take one piece of broccoli out, one chunk of sweet potato, don't put salt on it, roast it or whatever, steam it, but they can still have everything. They can have curry powder, they can have spices, they can have spicy, like they can have herbs, they can have everything. And also with like the textures, like they don't only have to eat mushy food. Like once they have teeth, like I remember giving my niece like a piece of steak and she was like 9 months old. They have to learn how to chew, right? That's very important.
Right.
So let's talk about that. Like how, I know like the baby led weaning movement is huge and like it's scary for parents, but at the same time, like you have to give them all the different textures, right? Or else they're going to get stuck with just mush. Is that correct or no?
I mean, I think that depends. So if you have a kid who's like meeting all of their developmental milestones and, they're cruising along, then I think baby-led weaning is a safe approach. I work not just with picky eaters, but also with kids who are having trouble transitioning to solids. So those kids are not using a mature enough chew pattern to safely manage like a piece of broccoli or a piece of steak. So for those kids, like medically, I don't clear them for that texture until they have the underlying skills.
How do you teach them that? Like, I think that's really cool. Like, how do you teach a kid, especially if they can't speak, like to chew? Like, I know you can like, like, and they follow you because like that's what they do. They're like monkey see, monkey do. But is that how you do it?
Yeah. No. So it's about, I mean, that's how you do it for a regularly developing kid, right? You just demonstrate it, they get it, it's all going great. The kids who come to me, it's like a mess. You're hearing loud noises coming out of their mouth. There's food coming out the front. It's like really, so one of the things I work on with the parent is where you place the food in the mouth. So if you're placing food in the front and it's all coming out of the front, then they're not able to get it back. So that means the tongue isn't doing what it's supposed to do. So you might put the food on the gum line. And it's dependent upon every kid. There's also tools that you can use for like teaching chewing so that they're safely chewing something, but it's not going to go down. And then you might dip that in like an applesauce and then teach them to chew and swallow. So you break down the steps for them. But typically, if a child is not transitioning well to like solids, it means they're still suckling, like using their approach to drink from a bottle, which is almost the opposite of what we have to do to like drink from a straw or to, manage food. So for those kids, I don't recommend baby-led weaning because it's a choking hazard. But,
great. Yeah,
if it's a regularly developing kid and everything's going great, let them on and share it.
Okay. Hello? Can you hear me? Yeah. Sorry.
No. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
That's okay.
So yeah, baby led weaning is not for everyone then. It's more typical for kids who are typically developing, you would say.
Yeah, yeah, because it's just about safety. I mean, kids have
It's
their
really
gag
good, right?
reflex when they're babies are, well, yeah, and it's further in the front of the mouth, which means food can't go back that far to choke. They're already gagging it up if it's going too far back. And so that's a great like safety valve that babies have. And that's why, as you get older, you can manage more textures of food because you're able to
Swallow.
chew it
Yeah.
and then also
Yeah, I
your
know
gag is
melted
going back
cheese
too.
is like a really big one. Like it's not good to give kids like melty cheese, like pizza, for instance. Like they can eat the pizza, but if the cheese is too melty, it'll just like curl up in a ball and they'll spit it out or they'll choke, because they can't like chew
I
it.
I literally I literally have a feeding group that I on
Pizza.
Tuesdays, and what we're working on is reducing the fear of cheese. Yeah, just cheese, because they've all had like a choking incident with cheese, or like
Um,
throwing up at school in front of their friends, which is humiliating. And so yeah,
the
it's
cheese
like a
club.
cheese. I can't think of like it's like the cheese club. And we even started with just like pass a piece of cheese around the group and just like feeling it. They're like, oh. But eventually, like yesterday we had grilled cheese for as our food. And, it wasn't like the easiest
Oh,
thing, but like we worked up to it. And yeah, cheese and things like that is tricky. Anything like that that's like,
so
yeah, that can like kind of
you'll
get
have to
stuck in
try
the
the brie
back. That's a
cheese
hard
now
one.
one day with them because it's not like
Yeah.
chewy like mozzarella melted. It's more like a dip. Like if you stick the pretzel, yeah. So it's actually really
That's
yummy. But
awesome.
I have one more question, and then we'll end it. What I was gonna say, I forgot what I was gonna ask. Okay, well, how can people find you, work with you? We'll just end there, and then um, we'll save this. And if you're watching, you can reach out to either of us. Follow Feed Your Sister, follow Creative Speech Therapy NYC, and DM us if you have any more questions. And we definitely will do this again. But Rachael, tell us how people can reach out and work with you if they are in New York City or on the Upper East Side.
Yeah, I mean, probably the easiest, you can just Google us. We
That's
have great
awesome.
Google 5-star ratings. Yeah, so we're on 95th between 1st and 2nd. So we're outside of the queue, the crosstown 96, street bus, all of that. But also follow us on Instagram. We're putting up stuff every day. So we have Instagram, we have Facebook. It's at Creative Speech Therapy NYC is our Instagram. And yeah, you can also go to our website, which is www.cst.nyc.com. No, www.cst-nyc. So you can go that way, and you can look at kind of all that we do there
Awesome.
and check
Awesome.
us
This is
out.
so fun. And if you are interested in learning how to meal prep or are looking for somebody to meal prep for you, please reach out to me. I actually am looking for a few new families to meal prep for, as well as coaching. So if you're somebody who loves to cook or wants to learn how to cook better and easier, reach out to me and follow us both. And this was so fun. Thank you, Rachael. And yeah, we're gonna save this. And I wrote some notes, but we'll cross paths and make sure everything's correct. And we'll put all the website information and everything in the post. And yeah, this was so fun. And happy Wednesday. I hope it doesn't rain, but it looks like it's coming.
I know. I know. It's not
All right, bye.
great.
Thank you.
All right, have a great day.